What's up, everybody? Thanks as always for supporting the show. It would mean a lot to me if you would take a second to scroll down and hit that subscribe button to the Hoops Tonight YouTube channel, and then follow me on social media on TikTok, Instagram, and Twitter so you guys don't miss any of our content over the course of this season. All right, let's talk some basketball. Moving on to the Knicks. So Jalen Brunson takes his extension rather than waiting to become a free agent to sign his deal. Ends up being effectively a 9-figure difference in the amount of guaranteed money that he could have taken. But this is complicated on several levels, so I want to get into some of the details. First of all, he's a small guard. Do any of you guys remember Isaiah Thomas? Remember when he had that year where he averaged like 28, 29 points per game? He received MVP votes. It was an unbelievable year for Isaiah Thomas. If you guys remember, he was tweeting like, back up the Brinks truck, right? Like he was like, I want all the money. But then he got into a playoff series against the Cleveland Cavaliers, and he suffered a hip injury, if you guys remember. And he just didn't look like the same guy. And guess what? He didn't get paid. And it went from him getting the Brinks truck big paycheck to him getting a whole lot of nothing, right? Compared, relatively, he got a tiny fraction of what he would have got had he taken maybe a smaller guaranteed deal sooner in that process, right? He bet on himself. He bet on getting all that money. He ended up getting hurt. Didn't get it, right? Like that Supermax deal sounds amazing. But what if Jalen Brunson gets hurt this year? What if Jalen Brunson plays in the playoffs while banged up and doesn't look quite like the Jalen Brunson we saw last year? And then suddenly like the Knicks are looking at the situation like, I'm not sure we can offer that lucrative of a deal, right? This is not choosing between two deals standing right in front of him. It's not like he had, the deal that he signed for $150 and then this other deal for $260 right next to each other, and then he like crumpled up the $260 and signed the $150. It's $150 now, or maybe the $260 next summer. Right? So it's a lot more complicated than that. It's also a fifth year. So there are opportunities to recoup their earnings. Yazi Goslin is a guy I follow on Twitter, does amazing stuff with the cap, and he did a really nice job breaking down. You guys should follow him on Twitter. Highly recommend. You'll learn a lot. I hope you kind of understand some of the CBA stuff. He did a really nice job breaking down the fact that if Jalen Brunson opts out after his third year, so he just does the first 3 years of the deal and then signs the Supermax, it comes out to about the same as he would have made if he took the $260 guaranteed next year. So like he can recoup the earnings in the long run if his agent chooses to play hardball at that point, right? Also, not everyone is as money motivated as other people. Like I understand that it like I know I am. Like I would have a hard time turning down that kind of money, but like, hey, Jalen Brunson's the kind of guy that's like, maybe he's looking at the situation like, you mean to tell me right now I can sign for $150 million guaranteed, a contract that seemed kind of like beyond my comprehension 5 years ago. Like, this is right here. I can sign it right now. Oh, and I get to play with all my buddies. I get to play with Dante DiVincenzo and Josh Hart and Mikal Bridges. I get to play with my buddies. We have a real team that has a real chance to win the title. Let's just, instead of like trying to hold out for something better, let's just take a good situation that's right here in front of us. And I think that's what he tried to jump on. And to me, you know what? Like, I'm never going to hate on a guy for doing that. The other angle is, and this is where it gets a little more complicated, the other angle is the NBA Players Association, right? So anytime a player takes less than the most possible money he can earn, he does the owners a favor, right? And there is this everlasting conflict between the owners and players in the form of their collective bargaining agreement that is essentially a battle for a battle for earnings, right? The players are in this long journey to demonstrate that they are the reason this league makes money and they deserve the most. The owners are on this long journey to say that they are the ones that are the reason why this league earns so much money and they deserve the most. They're jockeying for position all the time, right? And I don't know the exact number right now, but the revenue split's right around like 50-50, right? But in the CBA, the owners put all these restrictions in. They won that battle in a big way because a lot of players are starting to sign for less and less. Now, in the big picture, it might end up working out because at the end of the day, it's going to be 50-50 revenue split anyway. But the players want to be able to earn as much money as they possibly can, and anytime they take a discount, it does a favor to the owners. But once again, that's complicated because of the simple fact that there's no guarantee that the Knicks will offer him that money next summer. If he gets hurt, they probably won't. Jalen Brunson has been fortunate with health the last couple of years, up until he broke his hand broke his finger or whatever in that playoff series. I think he just wanted to take the guarantee that was there. Again, that's his prerogative, and I don't like how it's being framed as like Jalen Brunson did the Knicks a huge favor. He did the Knicks a huge favor, but it's more complicated than that. I think he also was just taking advantage of some financial security. To quote my friend Ryan, who's also a producer here at The Volume, he said, "There's never a bad time. It's never a bad idea to turn down $150 million guaranteed," and that's what Jalen Brunson decided to do. More importantly, though, it is a favor to the Knicks because it's way easier for the Knicks to maintain roster control of their core players now. Jalen Brunson, Mikal Bridges, OG Anunoby, they should be able to retain them all now and retain some flexibility. The second bit of this is like, well, what if they end up in the second apron when this is all said and done? Like, what if they sign Mikal Bridges and they sign Mitchell Robinson next year and they end up in the second apron? Well, the second apron is only bad in the sense of flexibility. As long as you're willing to pay the bill, you can keep your players. It's bad with flexibility, player movement, right? So the question is, can you be in the second apron with this group? If Mikal Bridges signs the same type of extension next year that Jalen Brunson just signed, you will have Brunson, Bridges, Anunoby, Dante DiVincenzo, Josh Hart, and Deuce McBride all locked up for each of the next 3 seasons, right? And if Bridges takes a similar discount to Brunson, you have a better chance to retain Mitchell Robinson, right? Let's say they retain Mitchell Robinson. At that point, you have 2 starting caliber guards, right? Brunson and DiVincenzo. You have a good bench guard in Deuce McBride. You have 3 awesome forwards who could all start. Josh Hart could start. OG Anunoby should start. Mikal Bridges should start, right? And you have a good starting caliber center in Mitchell Robinson, right? So it's kind of like I talked about with the Boston Celtics. They're a second apron team, but they have these 4 core guys in Drew Holiday, Derek White, Jaylen Brown, Jason Tatum, who are consistently healthy, consistently available, consistently great. So they can afford to lack flexibility because they have such a good starting 5 and 6 players, and counting Al Horford, right? So like, as long as you don't need to make a change, then you're fine. It's like the Lakers. You can't be in the second apron as the Lakers because you desperately need to make some tweaks at the 2 and 3 spot. They've needed to do that for years. So for them, they can't operate in that second apron because if they do, they're handicapping their only ability to address their flaws. This looks like a roster that can be in the second apron. So do the Celtics. As long as you have a roster that makes sense and a rotation that you can work with, then the second apron is not as big of a deal. But no matter what, this deal from Jalen Brunson just gives the Knicks that flexibility, gives them a better chance of retaining all those guys and having a long contention window. Again, as I look at everything, the one thing, I'm not trying to say it's a no-go because maybe Julius Randle comes into camp and it's a super natural fit. Maybe Mikal Bridges slides to the 2 and you play Julius Randle at center sometimes. Like, who knows how this works out? Maybe it all works great, but I have a feeling that he's going to be the odd man out. And then at that point, I think you try to look to flip Julius Randle basically into a little bit of depth as at the guard forward spot and a backup center. Because now at this point, you need a backup center without Isaiah Hartenstein. So we'll see how it all shapes out, but a big day for the Knicks because that just makes it far more likely that they can extend that window. Just if you paint it as Jalen Brunson doing the Knicks a favor, that's true, but let's not forget that there are some complications there. There's some reality to the fact that we've seen small guards make that gamble before and lose, and I'd hate for that to happen to Jalen Brunson. And I would imagine if I was him, I would imagine right now he's kind of resting easy, know that he's secure for the next 4 years, and that he's going to be happy playing basketball in an environment that he loves.